All right, let's jump right into this explainer. For millennia, we've been wrestling with the absolute biggest questions imaginable. Why are we here? What happens when it's all over? How should we treat each other? Today, we are going to explore the sheer scale of human belief, looking at how billions of people seek answers to those exact questions through structured, spiritual operating systems. We're going to break down the architecture of the world's major religions, stripping away the complexity to see exactly what they believe and how those beliefs shape our entire world.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the Abrahamic foundation, then really highlight and zoom in on the 5 pillars of Islam. After that, we'll explore Eastern cycles of rebirth, look at modern blends and offshoots, and finally search for the universal thread that might just connect them all.
Section 1. The Abrahamic Foundation.
When we zoom out and look at the global numbers, it is wild to think that over half the people on Earth belong to one of these 3 branches. Christianity is the largest religion on the globe, with 2.4 billion followers, all anchored in the belief that Jesus died for humanity's sins and resurrected. Then we have Islam, sharing the very same God with 1.9 billion followers. And right alongside them is the resilient 3,000-year-old root of both, Judaism, with 15 million followers upholding a foundational covenant with Abraham. It's absolutely incredible to see how a single ancient lineage branched out to cover more than half the planet.
This setup brilliantly shows how they share the same roots but take completely divergent paths. And honestly, the separation really comes down to the messenger. Jews are still waiting for the Messiah to arrive and usher in a perfect era. Christians worship Jesus as that divine savior, and Muslims view Muhammad not as divine but as the absolute final clearest prophet, which effectively demotes Jesus within their theology to being a prophet as well. It's the same foundational family tree, just with 3 entirely different conclusions.
Section 2. The 5 Pillars of Islam. We really want to highlight this section today to see exactly how belief translates into a framework of daily action.
To truly grasp Islam, you first have to understand the Quran. We're not talking about a text that is viewed as simply inspired by the divine, but written by men. Followers of Islam consider the Quran to be the literal, unedited vocabulary of God. It's not a translation, it's not an interpretation. It is believed to be the exact words spoken to Muhammad, preserved perfectly for 1,400 years. And that absolute textual certainty provides the foundation for everything that comes next. Which leads us directly to the 5 pillars. What is so fascinating here is that Islam doesn't just offer abstract philosophy. It provides a highly actionable, sequential blueprint for 1.9 billion people's daily lives. Look at how tangible this is. First, you make a clear declaration of faith in one God and Muhammad as his prophet. Second, you literally anchor your day by praying 5 times. Third, you financially support the community through charity. Fourth, you practice profound self-discipline by fasting during Ramadan. And fifth, if you have the means, you physically travel to Mecca for the pilgrimage at least once in your life. It is an incredibly powerful, active system of devotion.
For Muslims, this isn't just, a list of good suggestions. This is the definitive rulebook. The ultimate goal of adhering strictly to these 5 pillars and staying righteous is the absolute promise of paradise after a final judgment. It's a beautifully clear cause and effect spiritual architecture.
Section 3. Cycles of Rebirth. Let's pivot entirely to the ancient Eastern paths.
Over in the East, the foundational concept completely shifts to samsara. This is the endless cycle of dying and being reborn over and over again, driven entirely by karma, the idea that every single action has a consequence, whether in this life or the next. In these traditions, heaven isn't the finish line. In fact, existing in this loop is the problem. The ultimate goal is to break the cycle of rebirth completely.
So the fundamental contrast here is massive. On one side, you have the Abrahamic model. It's a straight line, one life, a final judgment, heaven or hell. On the other side, the Eastern paradigm is an endless loop. You die, you come back, you die, you come back. And the entire goal is to finally get off the ride.
So how exactly do you get off the ride? Well, Hinduism seeks moksha, dissolving your individual self into the one ultimate reality. Buddhism takes a different route, using the Eightfold Path to sever human desire entirely and reach nirvana. And then Jainism takes non-violence to such an extreme that devout monks will literally sweep the path ahead of them just to avoid stepping on insects and accumulating bad karma. Every single action matters.
But hey, not all Eastern paths are about escaping rebirth. Some are entirely focused on earthly harmony. Taoism teaches Wu Wei, urging followers to quietly align with the natural flow of the universe. Confucianism acts as a 2,500-year-old moral operating system for society, valuing hierarchy and respect. And Japan's Shintoism is highly active, worshipping kami, the sacred nature spirits living inside everything from rivers to ancestors.
Section 4. Modern Blends and Offshoots. Let's see how these systems evolved in more recent history.
In modern history, we see some truly unique cosmologies pop up. Mormonism, for instance, asserts that worthy humans can literally become gods and rule their own planets. Rastafarianism built a theology of resistance where Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie was viewed as the physical return of God. And Tenrikyo, which is quite rare as a major religion founded by a woman, focuses entirely on sweeping away mental dust to live joyful, pure lives.
Then there's this very specific number, 144,000. This is central to the Jehovah's Witnesses. They believe exactly 144,000 people will go to heaven. For everyone else in the faith, the goal is to live forever right here on a cleansed, restored paradise earth. But to inherit that earth, they have to strictly follow rules, like refusing blood transfusions, military service, and voting, all to survive an imminent Armageddon where the wicked are ultimately destroyed.
We also see drastically different approaches to the soul itself in these newer movements. Spiritism quietly dominates in places like Brazil, with 15 million followers who use mediums to talk to the dead, believing souls evolve toward moral perfection across multiple reincarnations. Now compare that to Scientology. Founded by a sci-fi writer, it uses a device called an e-meter during paid sessions to free immortal alien souls known as thetans from ancient galactic trauma.
Despite all those wild differences, a lot of newer faiths actually focus on radical synthesis and unity. Sikhism broke down strict caste barriers in the 1500s by declaring absolute equality under one formless God, valuing actual service over just prayer. Cao Dai playfully combined multiple historical figures, treating people like Victor Hugo and Winston Churchill as saints alongside Jesus and Buddha. And the Baha'i Faith champions the ultimate unity of science, religion, and all of humanity.
Section 5. The Universal Thread. Let's look at the foundational concepts that weave all of this together.
Looking at a timeline really puts this into perspective. It shows just how long we've been building these architectures. Humanity's search for truth has evolved from pre-writing animistic roots thousands of years ago, through ancient Persian dualism and Chinese moral frameworks, all the way to 19th century spiritual movements. We just keep building, rebuilding, and updating our answers.
And sometimes these blueprints get shared without us even realizing it. Take ancient Zoroastrianism from Persia. It introduced free will, a cosmic battle of good versus evil, heaven and hell, and a final judgment. It is a crazy historical fact that this exact dramatic cosmology was later completely absorbed by Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Literally millions of people practice these concepts today with absolutely no idea where their cosmology actually originated.
And if we rewind even further, back to animism, the absolute oldest belief system on Earth, we hit the idea that everything has a soul. Trees, rivers, mountains, they're alive and aware. What's amazing is that modern religions dismiss this as primitive for centuries. Yet, if you go ask a modern forest ecologist how interconnected and communicative the woods actually are, you'll find that ancient animism is surprisingly close to what cutting-edge science is just now discovering.
Which brings us to this beautifully unifying concept asserted by the Baha'i Faith. They claim that every major religion is fundamentally right. They believe that diverse prophets like Moses, Buddha, Jesus, and Muhammad are all just messengers updating the exact same divine message, perfectly tailored for different cultures and different eras in human history.
And that leaves us with a final, provocative thought to ponder. When you look at the incredibly complex, deeply human architecture of belief over the last several thousand years, are all these wildly different rulebooks, rituals, and theologies just different languages trying to describe the exact same hidden universal truth? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you in the next one.